And I cannot imagine making a 160K loss for a new development. One, you are waiting, there's opportunity cost before you move in. And then two, when most people make money for new launches, you lose money. Crazy. Hello everyone, welcome to another new video. In today's video, we're going to tackle the topic about new launches and why I think buyers need to be careful before committing into their 2026 purchase. Okay, and the reason is because for the couple of new launches from last year up to this year, they've been doing really well. Everything is 80-90% sold on day one, leaving zero to no options for buyers who are coming in after day one. And part of the reason is because I think there's this narrative that's ingrained into people's mind that, oh, I'll be buying into the cheapest price when I come in on day one. But that may or may not be necessarily true because the way developers are pricing looks a little bit different today as compared to a couple of years ago. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use some case studies from my own purchase and my own sale, some additional case studies from a couple of years ago, and then we're going to talk about strategies and why I think it should change if you're looking to buy into a new launch in 2026, especially because there's a couple of big launches coming up such as Vela Bay, Tengah Garden Residences, and Lentor Garden Residences. So if you're a buyer waiting for those plots to come up, make sure you speak to your agent to let them know that you need all the homework to be done before you commit into your purchase. If you're currently not working with anyone and you want to work with someone who has a data-centric approach, feel free to reach out to me. You know my WhatsApp number. I'm happy to share my thoughts with you. All right, but for now, let's get started. Alright, so if you've seen the previous video of me doing my home tour and talking about potentially selling my house, you might know that I'm staying in the Florence residences even though I will need to move out in a month's time. So right now, I'm going to show you what is the price growth for Florence residence. So if you look into the price growth so far, the development launched in 2019 and the TOP is somewhere around Q2, Q3 2023. So from 2019 all the way till Q1 2023, there were units that were available in the market. So developers were using this couple of years to really stage up the pricing based on market sentiments, especially since after 2020, there was really a boom in the market. The demand really increased significantly. So developers also used that opportunity to increase their price because for them, it's all about profits. So for myself, I bought in Q1 2020 at 1,515 PSF. At a point, average PSF was about 1,498. And if you can see, since then, all the way to Q1 2026, there's actually a 24% increase in price. And because today I'm going to show a positive example, which is my unit versus a neighbor's unit who sold at the same time, they bought in Q2 2022. And at that point, the average PSF is about 1,700 plus. And from Q2 2022 to right now, Q1 2026, there's only a growth of 5%. Okay, so now I'm going to review the numbers. So for myself, I bought in at an entry 1515, unit 07. I can tell you that. This is $850,000. That was my sale price. I bought in at $734,000. So actually on paper, about a 116K gain, excluding interest and all of that, stamp duty and all of that. On paper, 116K gain. And my neighbor who sold 28th of Jan, they bought in at $1.11 million and they sold it at $950. So on paper, it's already $161,000 lost. And the only reason why they netted a loss in this sale is because they bought in later at Q2 2022. At that point, the average PSF of the whole development was about 1,700 plus, and their entry is 2,108. And for 2022, this was really high. They bought in at a much higher price point as compared to the other neighbors who bought in earlier. And right now in the resale market, people are just not accepting this price. So people who are looking for one bedroom, one bed plus study, especially if you're talking about like the Hougang area, people are just not willing to pay this amount yet for the area. And I knew of this transaction because the buyer who bought my unit, the sister went to buy this unit. So the agent told me that, oh, they got a really good price because, the first owner sold at a loss, which is something that is crazy to me because I think people buying a one bedroom like myself, it's not a forever home. You're hoping to leverage so that you can make a better move in your second properties. And I cannot imagine making 160K loss for a new development. One, you are waiting, there's opportunity cost before you move in. And then two, when most people make money for new launches, you lose money, which is just not the reason why you would wait to buy a new launch to move in and then to lose money. Crazy. So now I'm going to show you why making money. I know that making money is it's a term that people don't really want to hear in the market because all the videos out there, you're just hearing agents say that, oh, you can make money, oh, you can make money. And I know that a lot of buyers are super tired of agents saying that. And I really run the numbers. I do understand that when all the agents say about making money, it's not really about like, oh, you need to make like astronomical amount, but any gains that you make in a property definitely would help you for your second property, especially because I speak to a lot of first timers and I know that this is not their last property. So I want to advocate for everybody that you need to buy and save because you need an exit plan. So I'm going to show the numbers, one being my positive example and one assuming that I sold my unit at 160K loss. So if looking at the numbers, I sold my house at 850. This was the outstanding loan, CPF amount that will go back to my CPF, including the accrued interest, the agent's commission, the lawyer's fee, and I also broke my loan agreement. So I did have to pay a bank prepayment. And then, of course, throughout that period of time, the CPF also continued to build up. My partner is a corporate worker, so CPF continued to build up. And then this would be the CPF, including those that's accrued to us, that'll be available for the second home. So that amounted to 323,552. And then adding the sales proceeds from this current house, because we sold Florence, we made 116 on paper. The sales proceeds will amount to 124,839.90. This will be the available funds for us to buy into our next home, which is 448,391. So at this amount, this allows us to down pay into a $1.6 million property thereabouts. Including the stamp duty and all that, so we can make an upgrade, okay? And now I'm going to show you the negative example. So imagine for the same house, and now I'm netting $160,000 loss, meaning my home sale is now $574,000 minus the outstanding loan, CPF that has to be refunded, agent commission, lawyer fees, and also the bank prepayment. I am now down $151,000 and 116.10. So meaning now I have to pay out of my pocket after waiting for the house to be built, staying in this house, selling this house, and now I have to pay for somebody to buy this house from me, $151,000. Well, the total funds available for the CPF still remains because, whatever is refunded, whatever that you have made throughout this year, if you're a salaried worker, will still amount to $323,552. But if you assuming that your $150,000 out of pocket will also have to come from this amount, you are now only down to $150,000 plus. You probably won't have much options now because one, you might need to look into a HDB, which at the current rules, you'll need to wait for 15 months, or unless if you do come from a wealthy family and this $150,000 loss can be covered, then at least you can exit and move on into the next property. So this is really just one example, which I think is a caution to everybody who's buying new development. Like, yes, a new development, I think up to a certain point is a good buy. But beyond that, the numbers need to be super, super clear and your holding period as well. So I'll explain that a little bit more down in the video. But if you're currently liking the content so far, feel free to drop your comments and subscribe to the channel so that I know that people are watching and I'll create more videos like this. Thank you so much. And now pulling out another example, Treasure at Tampines, which is also a very, very popular development a couple of years ago. And I'm going to compare if you bought in at launch versus buying in 2 years into the development, what were prices like? So in this case, we are seeing that in 2019 all the way to Q1 2026, we see a total of 34% growth in the entire development. If you bought in 2021 all the way to 2026, you see 27% 30%, which I think is still rather decent. It's still a generally good trajectory for the whole development. For this, we're going to look into the 3-bedroom entry price. In 2019, for Stack 97, you can bought a level 3 unit at $1.372 million, translating PSF is 1,328. Very low, very cheap. And in 2021, because demand has increased and developers has increased their price along the way, the price now for level 2 is at $1.626 million. And then the PSF is at $1,500. So if you look into the pricing on the initial launch day to where it was at 2 years into the launch, price actually did look quite different. You're buying in at least $150,000, $160,000 higher than your neighbor for a lower floor unit. So in that case, if you know of these numbers, it is for you to decide whether it makes sense for you to enter, especially if your holding period is short. And then another example as well, we look into Stack 84, level 6 in 2020, buy-in is 1.470, and then level 2 in 2021, the person bought in at $1.612 million. So there's still that disparity. So it's always important to know when you're buying a new launch, if you're buying a low floor, the neighbors on your higher floor pay more than you, or did they pay lesser than you? And if they pay lesser than you, you need to be very clear that maybe your exit strategy needs to be a little bit longer, your holding period needs to be a little bit longer as well. And this is what I'm going to show you. And here we can see, because there are already some resale transactions for Treasure at Tampines, we can see that generally, people did make money. Just looking at Stack 97, the first unit that sold in 2023, that means right at the TOP, right when their SSD lapse was level 8, they sold at a $348,000 gain on paper. And then because there's that gain and this benchmark that's been set, the next unit that sold a year later, level 6, sold it at $471,000 profit. And then again, in another year's time, level 3 sold at $518,000. And then subsequently this year, earlier, level 5 sold it and made a profit of $614,000. For development like Treasure at Tampines, what we can also see is that the longer the people held on to the unit, they also profited more. If you're buying into a development and the price is a little bit higher, this is why your holding period might need to be adjusted. But if you're going into a new launch just thinking that I want to flip in 3 years, and right now actually it's 4 years, it might be a little bit tricky, especially since the prices for new launches now are also higher as compared to a couple of years ago. So we're going to talk about one more development here, and that is Normanton Parks. When Normanton Park launched, new launches are already starting to boom, because after COVID is where a lot of people were looking into the new development market. So Normanton Park launched in January of 2021. So we can see that from their launch date right up to right now, they've only increased the average PSF by about 13%. This is actually a little bit low as compared to the past 2 developments that we've seen, but also because Normanton Park is 1,800 units, so it's really another mega development. So prices look a little bit different. The entry price entering was already a little bit higher, firstly because of the market, secondly because it's in the city fringe. So if you look into 2021 when they launched, prices were about 1,700 plus PSF, and even in 2022 there were still some units that were selling. Average PSF didn't change that much at about 1,800 plus. Then we did see a little bit of spike when the development got its TOP, but then right now, because there's a lot of competition, a lot of people are selling, and Normanton Park's location itself is quite niche. There's no amenities nearby, not near to the MRT, potentially affecting its resale pricing and demand right now. So looking into the entry price, same thing as Treasure at Tampines. So people who bought in 2021, using the example of Stack 30 here, could buy level 23 at 1.231 for a 2-bedroom. Level 12 was at 1.195. And further down, just 6 months time in 2021, level 5 and level 2 were going for 1.214, level 5 at 1.241. And this means that the person who bought in January at 1.231 for a 23rd floor actually bought in at a really, really good price as compared to the buyer who bought in at level 5. And in this case also, you can see that the price jump is a lot faster over a shorter period of time. Next, we also look into Stack 29, which is a 3-bedroom. On the 15th of January, somebody bought into Unit 2229 at $2 million. And in 2022, so it's 1 year after that, somebody bought into a level 2 unit at $2.044 million. So the disparity here is 20 floors, but the person actually paid more. So coming in earlier in this case for Normanton Park did have its advantage, because even though the price is quite similar, 40k difference, but you are enjoying a much better view, and likely the unit will have a higher desirability in the resale market too. And for Normanton Park resale, truth to be told, there's really a varying performance. We do see people for the smaller bedrooms, like the 1-bedroom or the 1+ study, they do make a loss. So here, 38k, 62k loss. Even for the 2 bedrooms, for people who bought certain unit types, they only made very meager gains, like 7,000 to 72,000. So pretty much it's still somewhat of a loss, but at least you do get your capital back. But in another case, there are also people who bought in on the first day who did see quite significant gains. These are for 3-bedroom units. They make gains of like 188,000, 246,000, and 382,000. So Normanton's Park varying performance is interesting but not unexpected. Firstly, because I do think that the area do quite well with renters, for tenants, because you're quite close to a school, you're quite close to Science Park, and there are a lot of people working there who wouldn't mind staying if they are working nearby. However, for people looking for their own stay, especially families, there's no existing population that are already staying there prior to Normanton Park. So there's not really a demand that's seeking to be at Normanton Park unless there's a real need to be there. And for a lot of people buying into the market now, they are looking for familiarity because of the day-to-day lifestyle that they are already used to, or they want to be close to their parents. So Normanton Park just doesn't have that mature town population that was already existing before, which is probably why it is struggling a little now. But beyond that, there are also other negative sale transactions that have been lodged in areas such as One Per Bank, 4th Avenue Residences, Avenue South Residences, and also Canning Hill Piers. And these are all for the smaller unit types. So right now in the market, we definitely do see lesser demand for 1-bedroom, 1+ study, which is why I think in the resale market now, these are the units where a lot of people bought for investment previously and they want to offload it quick. And because the demand is not there, we are just not seeing prices increase that quickly at the moment. So if you think about it, what are the factors that's really affecting profitability in the resale market? So for me, I think there are 3 points here that I will go over. First is the entry price from the developer, and this is the most important point. And the reason being is that the developers, as they're selling it to you, they control the price very well because they are one decision maker. The reason why prices go a little bit haywire in the resale market is that because all the owners become individual decision maker. So you cannot be certain to say that, okay, this person who bought in at like 100k above me is not going to sell at a loss because, everybody's going to sell at a profit. But everybody is in different phases of life. Everyone has different opinions. Everyone has different risk appetite, tolerance for a negative loss, so on and so forth. So comparing to a price from the developers, you never know. It's just a little bit riskier in the resale market because everybody have their individual brain. Everybody is acting in their own interest. So to protect yourself, what you can control and what you can do your homework around is the developer's pricing, whether it makes sense or not. So always have a walkaway price when you enter into a new launch. Second is the holding period. As we have seen, sometimes when you hold for longer, you do make more money. But sometimes in another case, if you're already losing money, it might be very hard to see a market turn around so quickly in the next couple of months. If now you do have a better opportunity, is it better to exit at a loss to move on? Holding period matters a lot, especially today if you're buying a new launch for own stay. People might have bought in at a much cheaper price. So you have to think about your exit plan. If I'm exiting in 4 years, does it make sense for me to enter at that high price now? And lastly, is the livability and the desirability of the unit types and the region that it's in. If today you're buying a 1-bedroom and you're buying at the far end of the country like Pasir Ris, Sengkang, do people really want to stay there? Maybe not for a single bachelor, right? But then if you're a family, maybe those locations for 3-bedroom makes a lot more sense, vice versa. So we're going to go through these points one by one, and I'm going to explain to you my thoughts. So before I go into the points, I'm going to chat a little bit about the history of new launch performance versus where we are at now, and why these factors do matter, and why they have changed from a couple of years ago. Firstly, is that if you look at the Florence residences, first day of sale, 54 units. Treasure at Tampines, 272 units. Normanton Park sold a third, but then that is in 2021. So imagine in 2019, the Florence residences only sold 3.8% of their units on day one. Treasure at Tampines, 12.35%. Normanton Park was 32%. So if you're a developer of Florence residences and you only sold 3.8% on day one, will you increase the price immediately? Likely no, because you do need to gain that sales momentum so that people will continue to come in, right? However, for 2025-2026, things are very different now. Guacoland, Springleaf, 92% on day one. Sky at Holland, 99%. River Modern, that sold earlier this year, 90%. And the very, very recent Pinery Residences sold 92.5% on day one. So if you think about this, now developers know that demand is so hot and they are taking a different mindset now. They are not afraid of people not buying because every launch is almost oversubscribed. They do know that there will be buyers for it. And with that, I go into my first point of why your new launch strategy needs to change. And the first being entry price from the developer. So developers are already changing their mindset when it comes to pricing. Have you realized that? If we look into the period of 2022 to 2023, the smaller bedroom unit types like the 1-bedroom and the 2-bedroom, their starting PSF are usually higher because we see a lot more demand for those. So if we take, for example, Hillock Green, the 2-bedroom here can start from 2,160 PSF, whereas the 4-bedroom are only starting from 1,980 PSF. Similarly, for Grand Dunman, when it launched, the 1-bedroom, 2,418 PSF, 2-bedroom, 2,356 PSF, whereas the 4 and the 5-bedroom are also only 2,300 PSF. They're on a comparable level, and this is because demand used to be on the smaller bedroom types. However, if we look into the launch last year and this year, we can see that, for example, River Modern, 3-bedroom here is at 2,951 PSF, 4-bedroom at 3,212 PSF. And for Sky at Holland, similarly, 2-bedroom is from 2,598 PSF, 3-bedroom from 2,623, 4-bedroom from 2,698. So the change here is that the developers are now loading the premium more on the bigger unit types because the demand for the bigger unit types is a lot higher at the moment. This is also something that you should pay attention to, especially if you exited from your previous new launch and are buying into a bigger new launch right now. And next, because developers need to profit and they're selling 80-90% of their units on day one, how are they pricing it? And today, using River Modern as an example, we can see that the level 12 pricing to the level 36 pricing differs drastically. So if we look into the 2-bedroom here, 689 square feet, level 12, they are pricing it at $2.182 million, translating to a PSF of $3,167, and level 36 is $2.47 million, PSF is $3,585. And this is like a $300,000 difference on day one. $300,000 difference buying in on day one. Same thing for the 1,098 square feet 3-bedroom. Level 12, the purchase price is $3.565 million, and level 36 is $4 million. All right, so that is a difference of $400,000 to $500,000 on day one. We look into the examples that are put up. The developers don't increase their price so much last time, but right now, because demand is so high, the price increase is immediate on day one. And this is why you really need to do your homework and know what is a good entry price, especially if your holding period is not so long. And another example I'm going to use here is from my recent Pioneer Residences booking. I assisted a buyer to purchase a 2-bedroom plus study. So 2-bedroom plus study are all in block 930 and 932. So we had the inside and the outside facing. So the best and most ideal stack that most people are going for was stack 45 because it's a pool facing. The block to block distance is the furthest. And we bought into a 10th floor unit. And the 10th floor for stack 45 was actually going at $1.842 million. And looking at the price point, when we see the 10th floor facing the road, so if we look at stack 48 and stack 37, they were $100,000 lower. And for somebody who is buying for investment, our recommendation there was to go for the road-facing unit because the $100,000 gap is so big and significant. And I think in the resale market, especially if you're looking for a shorter term investment, entry price is still very important. So as you can see, how developers are pricing in the new launch market now is a lot more aggressive because they're selling out so many units on day one and they are still looking to profit the same amount. So it's really, really important and imperative that you speak to your agent, you do the homework before you enter booking day. The best case scenario is that you also have transparency over how the other units are priced so that you can make the best decision for yourself. And next, another reason why your new launch strategies need to change is because of the market price gap plus your holding period. I think a lot of people are looking at new launches now because if we use data from a couple of years ago, we can see that people make quite a significant chunk of money over 3 to 4 year period. One, your holding period needs to be longer now because the SSD has changed to 4 years. And secondly, the market gap pricing now between new and resale is much bigger as compared to a couple of years before. So first, if you look at 2018, the disparity between a new launch then and a resale development is about 10.5%. And 2019 is about 12.7% only. And this is the period where your Treasure at Tampines, Florence, and people are selling. So this 12% actually is still quite acceptable because with 99-year lease developments, people will compare the lease decay, so on and so forth. So a 10 to 12% sort of like difference is quite acceptable for a new development. Fast forward to where we are at now, if we compare 2021 to 2026 period, in 2021, the disparity is 41%. Right now, a little bit tapered, about 35%. So you know that the resale developments still have a way to grow, especially if the price disparity is so big. So buying into a new launch now in general, we do need to be a bit more price sensitive if our holding period is shorter. However, if we do have a longer holding period, I do think that buying into a new development could still work out in your favor over a longer period of time. This also differs in the area that you're looking at, if there's any transformation that's coming up, any other newer development that can help benchmark the pricing. Because as we are looking at the current new launch in the market and we are saying that prices are high, subsequent land beats are also higher, and with this war that's going on, interest rate is expected to increase, construction cost is expected to increase. All this could also have a significant impact into the market, which could cause prices to go up. So I think if you're buying into a new launch today, it is important to do a comprehensive analysis on the area. It's not just for the fact that buying a new launch would definitely benefit you in the near future. And one last factor that I think is important is the desirability and livability of the unit that you're buying into and which area that you're buying into. So I feel like there's no hard and fast rule for this. I think typically it's just to kind of envision, like if you're a family, can you stay in this area? Is this area, does it work out? And like going with your gut feeling. So why I think this is important is because especially you're looking for investment and you want to have a very quick exit plan. This is quite important. So if we look into the examples that I put out for Amor Residences, all the subsale units now are mostly the bigger bedrooms type 3, 4, 5 bedroom even. And this is because this development is located within 1 km to Ai Tong Primary. And for families, they're minimally looking for 3 bedroom units, and having the attribute of being within 1 km to a good school is something that is well sought after. They're willing to pay a premium for that lifestyle to be there. On the other side, there's another development that has also recently collected their keys. This is the Landmark, located near to Chinatown and in between Outram Park area. And if you can see the sub-sale units they have going for the landmark is the 2-bedroom units. They're taken out at a faster rate, and this is because for a location like the landmark that you are not within close to school, you're maybe in an area that's closer to the CBD, maybe the unit appeals more to single couple dings who are looking to move in that area. For families, they might be a bit more hesitant to move there because there's no immediate malls, immediate sort of like schools that appeals to them. So that's everything from me today. What do you think? If you're buying into a new launch today, especially some of the upcoming launches such as Vela Bay, Tengah Garden Residences, and Lentor Garden Residences, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to share my strategy, my analysis directly with you. And if you want more information about those launches as well, you can just WhatsApp me at my number 8742-2212 and I will give you the latest information that we have. And with that, I'll see you the next time. Bye!